It begins before you even see the sea. The cold, not a sharp chill or a bracing wind, but something older, heavier. It doesn't bite, it settles, like guilt, in the joints of your fingers and the back of your throat. It gets into your boots, your breath, your thoughts. You told yourself you could handle it, that you were strong. That cold was just part of the world, something to ignore. But this is different. This cold remembers you, and it's waiting. You thought becoming a Viking meant raiding, sailing, drinking thick mead from skulls, and returning home with gold heavy in your arms. You thought there would be cheering, comrades, glory. You thought the songs were true. But no one sings this morning. There's only wind and the groan of wet leather and the slow, frozen clank of iron against wood as the longship is loaded inch by inch with things you barely understand, ropes greased with animal fat, wrapped bundles of salted fish, spare oars bound with seal hide. You're expected to help, but no one tells you how. They don't speak unless they have to. They don't teach with words. They watch, and they remember, so you lift what you think you should. You tie what looks like a knot. You nod when others grunt. And you hope no one notices that you're shaking, not from fear, you tell yourself, but from the cold. Your hands are raw before the boat even leaves shore. Not from battle, from friction, from mistakes, from rope dragged too quickly or pulled too tight. One older man, whose face looks carved from pine bark, grabs your wrist without a word and rubs your knuckles with rancid fat. The smell makes your stomach lurch. He doesn't let go until he's sure it's soaked in. You don't thank him. No one thanks anyone here. Gratitude is for the dead. Then there's the rowing. You thought you were strong. You've lifted stones, split wood, fought in taverns, but this is different. Rowing is not about strength. It's about endurance, rhythm, and pain. Your arms go numb after the first hour. Your shoulders throb after the second. By the fourth, you lose the feeling in your hands entirely, and when you look down, the wood is slick with blood. No one tells you to stop. No one looks at you. Because if you stop, if you falter, you become the reason the boat drifts, the reason they reach the shore second, the reason someone else doesn't live to raid another village. There is no space for weakness here. Not even the appearance of it. The sea is not blue. It's not calm. It doesn't glitter in the sun like the stories say. It's gray, violent, endless. The sky matches it. The boat creaks like it's in pain, and every wave that crashes over the bow soaks you to the bone. You don't even feel wet anymore. Just heavier, colder, smaller. You begin to understand something you never expected. This isn't a journey, it's a test. And the sea is the examiner. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking. Not because of the blood, not because of the steel, but because the cold doesn't just hurt your body, it strips away who you thought you were. And by the time you reach land, you're someone else entirely. Someone quieter, someone thinner, someone the others might not kill, yet. There is no war cry, no thunder of drums, no horn splitting the sky. You've been waiting for it, something to shake you from the sick ache of rowing, something to ignite the fire in your chest, to tell you it's time to become what the stories promised. But instead, there is only silence. The longship beaches itself with a hollow grind of wood on stone. The men rise one by one, like wolves scenting something wounded. No one yells, no one roars. They just move with purpose, with precision, and with something far more terrible than rage. They move like this isn't the first time they've killed. You expected to be part of a charge, a glorious rush. Instead, you're handed a small axe and told nothing, no speech, no plan. You follow because you must, because to hesitate now would mean being left behind. And being left behind isn't the same as being spared. Not here. Not among these men. Their world is ruled by a cold logic, simple, final, and wordless. You don't need to be told the rules. You feel them in every glance, in every shoulder turned half away, in the way your name hasn't been spoken since you boarded the ship. The village comes into view. It's not what you expected. Just a few scattered huts, a low fence, smoke from cooking fires, chickens pecking at dry earth. There are no guards, no walls, no cries of alarm. Only one old man stooping to gather firewood. He hasn't seen you yet, but the others have seen him. And then it begins. Not like thunder, but like a blade slipping between ribs. Quick, precise, silent. The first axe doesn't make a sound you'd recognize as human. Just a thud. The old man's body folds in on itself like damp cloth, and before you can even exhale, the others are inside the village. Doors are kicked, fire is flung, women scream. A dog barks once before going silent. You stumble forward, unsure of where to go, what to do. You tighten your grip on the axe, but it feels foreign in your hand, like something borrowed from a dead man. You freeze in front of a house. The door is open. Inside, a woman clutching a child. Her eyes lock on yours. She doesn't scream. She doesn't beg. She just stares. You don't move. Behind you, someone growls. A hand grabs your shoulder and pulls you aside. It's the old one, the one with the bark face. He looks at you with disgust, then steps inside. You turn away before you see what happens. You don't drop the axe, but you don't raise it either. And that's enough to mark you. Not with a word. With a glance. Later, when the village burns and the others laugh and eat and spit blood onto the earth, you sit alone. The flames warm your face, but not your hands. They're still shaking. No one offers you food. You wouldn't accept it if they did. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking. Because violence isn't a moment, it's a rhythm. It's something learned, rehearsed, perfected until it becomes quiet. And you're still waiting for it to feel loud. You stay near the edge of the firelight. The others sit in the heart of it, passing skins of ale, tearing at meat like wolves fattened on slaughter. Their laughter is low, harsh, and full of that particular kind of joy you still don't understand. It's not happiness, it's confirmation. They killed, they took, they lived. Again, that's enough. For them. You sit farther out. Not by choice. That's just where you belong now, on the rim of their warmth. Close enough to smell the feast, far enough not to be invited to it. There's no shame spoken, no insults hurled. But you feel the absence of your name like a bruise. Your axe is clean. You wiped it anyway. Just in case someone noticed, but you know, and they know. The village is gone. Nothing left but cinders. A few stubborn beams half charred and leaning at mad angles. Smoke curls upward like regret. The sky's gone a bruised purple long past dusk, not yet night. You smell sweat, blood, and boiling meat. Somewhere, a man sings half of a song in Old Norse, drunk on the echo of his own survival. You close your eyes and try not to hear the rest. Behind your eyelids, the woman, the child, the stare that didn't beg, didn't cry, just looked at you like a reflection. She's still there, even now. Looting isn't chaotic, it's surgical. You expected greed, frenzy, but the men work methodically, stripping valuables with practiced speed. Silver bangles, tools, whetstones, anything that won't rot or break on a ship. A boy no older than 13 slips a woven blanket from beneath a corpse and folds it neatly before tossing it into a sack. Another lifts a pair of boots from a man he likely killed and tries them on. They fit. He grins. Blood still coats the toes. You're handed a pouch. You're expected to fill it. You walk through what's left of the village with leaden steps, pouch dangling empty from your belt. You try not to look at things. You try to look around them. A man's arm beneath a door, a braid caught on a wooden nail, a bucket still half full of water, slowly freezing now that the fire's gone. You pause at a small hut that must have belonged to a weaver. Spools of dyed thread lie scattered on the floor. Blue, red, ochre. A loom stands by the wall, untouched by fire. The threads sway gently in the breeze from the broken roof. You step inside. Not to take anything, just to be out of sight. You crouch beside a basket of yarn. You press your fingers into it, feeling softness, warmth that isn't yours. You imagine a hand reaching for it in the morning. You imagine someone humming as they work. You imagine a life. And then you imagine what happened here. And who caused it. You stand. You leave the basket. But you know you're already carrying something heavier. Later, someone tosses a silver ring into your lap. You flinch. It's small, plain, the kind of thing worn without pride, just worn. A ring for a hand that worked, not one that ruled. You look up. The bark-faced man nods at you once. Not approval, not kindness. Just a message. Take something. Or be nothing. You keep the ring. You don't wear it. But that doesn't matter. That night, you sleep with it in your palm. The fire crackles. Someone snores. Someone else cries out in their sleep. You lie awake, staring at the smoke patterns in the stars. And you realize that here, on this cold earth soaked with blood and mead, even what you take can betray you. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking. Because it's not just what you kill, it's what you keep. What you carry, and what you try to pretend you didn't want. But the ring's still in your hand. And it will be when you wake up. The beach still smokes behind you. Not with fire, those have long since died, but with the scent of charred wood, seared hair, and the quiet, stubborn breath of ruin. Every time the wind shifts, it pushes another reminder of what you left behind into your nose. Something cooked too long. Something wet that shouldn't have burned. Something that used to be human. You don't turn back, no one does. But you feel it anyway, lingering on the backs of your teeth, sticking in the folds of your clothes. You want to rinse your mouth with seawater, just to spit the taste of it out. You don't. The others would notice. You're rowing again. Not as far this time. The ship is heavier now, weighted down with whatever the others thought worth taking. Iron pots, silver jewelry, a goat with eyes wide and wild from being tied down next to a dead man. You didn't take anything. Not really. A ring, maybe. But even now it's tucked into the seam of your belt. Forgotten until you remember it, and when you do, it burns hotter than flame. You tell yourself it's silver. You tell yourself you needed something. You tell yourself you'll throw it away when no one's looking. But you won't. You're already telling stories. Even to yourself. No one asks what you took. That would be a kindness. That would mean they cared. Instead, you get glances, short, silent flicks of the eye. The kind that measure weight, not worth. You notice a pair of brothers whispering after you drop your oar too fast and splash one of them. You catch the bark-faced one watching as you eat, seeing how much you take, how fast you chew. You're not being tested. You're being remembered. Later that night, they start the fire early. The wood is damp and smokes more than it flames, but they don't mind. It's tradition or something close enough. The night after a raid is for eating, drinking, and speaking the deeds aloud so that the gods, or the ghosts, or each other don't forget. It isn't just bragging, it's survival. If your name isn't spoken, it might as well not exist. And if your name is forgotten, then when your time comes to cross into whatever after waits for men like this, there'll be no one waiting to call you through. They tell their stories with laughter. Not joy, there's little of that here, but with rhythm. Each man steps into the firelight, lifts his cup, and recounts his glory. The first blow struck, the richest house looted, the man who ran and was run down. They don't exaggerate, not much. They don't need to. Even if the details warp, the blood was real enough. And you say nothing. You sit just outside the circle, your legs crossed, your shoulders hunched against the wind. You sip slowly from a cup someone else passed you without looking. You stare at the flames, trying not to see anything in them, faces, eyes, the color of a child's hair as she fled behind a barn. You don't remember chasing. You don't remember stopping either. You only remember how quiet it was. Eventually, the fire turns to embers. One of the younger men, bare-faced, eager, leans across the smoke and says your name. Not loudly, just enough for others to pause. The silence it creates is sharper than any blade. You look up, eyes meet yours. "Well," he asks, you know what he means, they all do. You open your mouth, you close it. You could lie, you should. It would be easy. Say you broke down a door. Say you took something, a blade, a cloak, a life. They wouldn't ask for proof. They wouldn't need it. Not if your voice doesn't shake. Not if you hold their gaze. But you don't. You shake your head. "Nothing worth telling," you say. And just like that, the wind returns. No one mocks you. No one jeers. But the fire burns colder after that. And though they pass you another cup, no one refills it. You drink the last of the warmth and sit with your story unsaid, heavier than any silver. In the dark, your thoughts crawl sideways. You wonder if you should have lied. You wonder what the cost is for a silent mouth in a camp of shouting men. You try to remember who told you that truth mattered, but all you can summon is the echo of your own voice, alone in your head. The men around you snore, grunt, dream. You envy them for it. You dream too, eventually, but your dream is a door, just one. Closed. On the other side, a woman stands. Her face changes every time you blink. Sometimes young, sometimes old, sometimes familiar. You don't know what she wants. You don't know if she's waiting for you or hiding from you. You reach for the latch and wake with your hand curled around the ring. It's still warm. The next day brings another raid. They don't call it that. They call it a stop, a visit, a test of strength. But the intent is the same. You see it in how they wrap their boots tighter, how the spears are checked twice, how the boy who smiled yesterday sharpens his blade with a hunger that doesn't match his years. This village is larger. A fishing post with a wide dock and a net shed that smells of salt and rotting wood. You think it might be defended. It isn't. Just a few men with sticks, and even they break before the first axe lands. You enter the fray this time, not because you want to, because you must. Because the fire last night said more than words. Because silence has weight, and you can't carry much more. You raise your axe, you shout. You don't remember if you hit anything, not clearly. It all blurs: wood, sweat, fire, screaming. Someone sobbing so loudly it drowns the surf. You kick a door open and trip over a stool. Inside, no one. Just blankets. Fish hanging to dry. A bowl of milk curdling in the sun. You steal the bowl. You drink it. It tastes like sour salt and cowardice. That night you speak. When the cup has passed, you stand. You talk about the fish, the door, the bowl. You make it sound like something else. You add a man where there wasn't one. You give him a knife. You say you were faster. They nod. Some even clap. You sit. The ring stays in your hand. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking, because the stories they want aren't the ones you can tell. And the ones you carry, those stay buried, like bones under the ash. But the earth remembers. And so do you. The sea speaks in rhythms older than language. Its voice laps against the hull in a slow, deliberate chant. A lullaby not meant for comfort, but for remembering. You sit amidships, legs stiff from rowing, arms sore down to the bone. Salt crusts your eyelashes. Your hands, once soft enough to flinch at splinters, are raw and blistered now, more leather than skin. You no longer smell the stench of sweat and brine. It's simply the air. Across from you, two men doze with their heads bowed, their fingers still looped through the oars. Their mouths twitch in sleep, chasing memories or ghosts. You envy them. But you don't sleep. You haven't since the last raid. You tell yourself you're being watchful. The truth is, you're afraid of what you'll see when your eyes close. You haven't told another lie since the bowl. But you haven't told the truth either. In this place on this ship, words are iron. They weigh what you are. And every time you say something that doesn't match your scars, the ship seems to know. The others don't speak of it, but their eyes do. Your saga isn't just unwritten. It's unwanted. And still you are here. That's what no one explains. There is no oath, no ceremony, no sacred blade held to the sky. No moment where someone says, "You are one of us." There's only the repetition, the rowing, the shared food, the laughter you don't join in, and the silence you learn to interpret like smoke over the treetops. You didn't swear anything, but you stayed. And that's enough. The coast appears again. Forested, sloping down toward a bend of muddy river. Not a village this time, just a stead. A family, maybe two. One longhouse, smoke from the roof hole, no walls. You hope they turn back. They don't. The ship beaches, and the men step off lightly, without shouting. It's not even noon, but the air feels darker, like the clouds pulled closer. There's no fight this time. No one runs. A man steps out of the longhouse holding a stick for a cane and raises his hand. Two children follow him. One hides behind his legs, the other doesn't blink. You're the last off the ship. You step into mud. It sucks at your boot and holds on, like something beneath the ground wants you to stay. You follow the others. No one speaks. They don't need to. Later, someone gives you a chicken. You don't know whose it was. It doesn't matter. It squawks and flaps until you tie its legs. It looks at you with tiny, accusing eyes. You carry it like a sack of grain. You wonder if this counts as loot. The stead burns behind you. No screaming this time, only wood snapping in on itself, like ribs caving inward. The family is gone, or dead, or scattered. You didn't ask. You didn't look. But you took the chicken, and that was your yes. That night, they don't build a fire, too close to other steads. Smoke would betray them. Instead, they huddle in cloaks, chew jerky in silence, and sleep by turns. You sit with the chicken in your lap. You tell yourself it's for eggs, that no one will care if you keep it, that it's just a bird. But it's not. It's a symbol. It's proof. It's the thing they'll point to next time someone says, "Did he take anything?" And now you understand. The oath wasn't a promise. It was a pattern, and you're part of it. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking, because it doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what you carry. Even a chicken, even a lie, even a silence. And you carry them all now. The sea is gray this morning. Not stormy, but stretched thin with mist, as if the world forgot to finish itself overnight. You can barely see the shoreline behind you, but you know it's there, smoking, broken, gnawed on by the same hands that now reach for bread and drink on the deck. There's less talking today. After what happened at the stead, no one seems eager to boast. The chicken is gone taken while you slept. You didn't ask who, you didn't fight for it. Let that be what it was. A symbol, stolen like everything else. Instead, you sit beside the one they call Lodi. You didn't ask for him. He just started sitting next to you 3 nights ago, like a stray dog deciding which porch to haunt. He's younger, but not weak. Shorter, but not soft. His hands are fast, and his teeth are chipped, and you've seen him kill without changing expression. But when he talks to you, it's like he's somewhere else entirely, like he's testing you for warmth, checking if there's still a heartbeat inside the meat. "You don't talk much," he says now. You grunt. It's meant to be neutral, but it's more bitter than that. He watches the waves for a while. "I used to think that meant something," he adds. Silence, like a sign. Like maybe you'd seen too much. You glance at him, and now I think it just means you're afraid. He doesn't say it like an insult. He says it like someone admitting a wound. And somehow, that makes it worse. The ship lands again before noon, another fishing hamlet. These ones are ready, though sort of. A palisade, maybe 10 logs wide. A bell, the sharp glint of spearheads in the grass. The others smile. They like resistance. It gives their stories teeth, but Lodi doesn't smile. He watches the village, then looks at you. "You coming?" It's a question, not a command. That's the difference most of them expect. Lodi invites, you nod. And that, somehow, is worse than shouting yes. The fighting is brief, loud, wet. 2 defenders fall before the rest scatter. You chase. You all do. It's part of the performance now. Your axe hits something, maybe someone. You don't stop to see. Lodi is already at the storehouse, prying open a box of salt-dried herring with his dagger. You grab a sack. Fill it. Grain, not gold. But your hands shake less now. You don't know if that's progress or surrender. When it's done, Lodi finds you by the stream. You didn't take anything last time, he says. I took the chicken, he grins. That doesn't count. You look at him. What does? He doesn't answer, not with words. He pulls a knife from his belt, small, sharp, bone-handled, and presses it into your palm. Now you've taken something, he says. That night, you sit beside him by the fire. Not speaking, not yet, but breathing easier. Lodi tells a story, not about this raid. About his mother, who was taken in a raid like this, but lived long enough to teach him how to make bread without flour. About his brother, who drowned himself after a bad winter. About a time he tried to live as a monk, until he punched a priest for calling his gods lies. He laughs, you don't, but you listen. And that's the closest thing to prayer you've done in weeks. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking, because even if you survive the raids, the hunger, the silence, there's always someone who sees through you, who names the shape of your fear, and calls it brother. And sometimes you answer. Snow doesn't fall here, it arrives. One night, the forest is all moss and pine, and the low rustle of dying leaves. The next, it's silent, covered, transformed, like a sheet has been drawn across the land to hide the dead things beneath. It's not just the cold, it's the stillness, the kind that crawls into your ears and makes every breath sound too loud, too wrong, like you're disturbing something that would rather be left alone. You're inland now. The sea has vanished behind a wall of hills. The ship is stashed in a hidden inlet, buried under pine boughs and frost. You march each day. No raids for now. Just distance. Just survival. Your boots crunch through snow that conceals the uneven ground, and every step risks a twisted ankle or a broken knee. No one talks much anymore. Words freeze in the air and fall like dust. Food is tighter. Even the loudest among the crew eat with their heads low. Lodi walks beside you, scarf wrapped around his face, eyes squinted against the glare. He speaks only once in the morning to say, check your toes. If you can't feel them, say something. You check. They're numb, but not gone. Not yet. The cabin comes into view late in the second week. It's not much. Just 4 walls, a collapsed roof, smoke scars where a chimney used to be. But it has a door. Shelter. Inside, the stink of mold and rodent piss burns your nostrils, but no one complains. You drop your pack. You sit. The warmth from your body alone makes the air feel less like teeth. They get a fire going. Slowly, carefully. The youngest among you coughs the whole time, wet, wheezing, almost rattling. No one comforts him. That isn't cruelty, it's caution. Affection is heavy. And if he doesn't make it, the weight will spread. That night, someone tells a story about a bear they once saw tear a man's face off. It's meant to be funny, no one laughs. You lie with your back to the wall, watching the fire shrink into coals. Lodi sleeps with his boots on. You think about doing the same. You think about your mother's voice. You think about spring like it's a lie. Morning brings a quiet decision. You'll stay here. Not forever, just until the weather lets go of the roads. Until the rivers thaw. The older men begin reinforcing the walls with moss and mud. You help, not because you want to, but because your fingers need the motion. Stillness is dangerous now. It invites thinking. You cut wood. You melt snow. You check your toes again. They're white at the edges. One of the others dies. He doesn't scream. Just stops moving. They find him sitting, arms crossed, face half covered in frost. For a while, no one touches him. Then Lodi wraps the man's blanket tighter. lifts him gently, and carries him out like a sleeping brother. You help dig. The ground is stone. You use axes. By the time the hole is deep enough, your arms feel made of ash. He's lowered in without ceremony. No one speaks. Even the wind holds its breath. That night, Lodi doesn't eat. You offer him your share. He doesn't take it, but he looks at you longer than usual. The next morning, someone wakes up laughing. It's a strange sound, high, thin, cracked like old ice. A man called Avend has lost something. Not his knife, not his boots. His name. He repeats it over and over, as if the syllables might tether him back to his body. No one stops him, but they keep their distance. You don't know what happens to Avend. One day he's there, then he isn't. No one mentions it. You sharpen your knife each night, not because it's dull, but because it reminds you of edges, of definition, of control. Lodi sits beside you sometimes, carving a bit of wood into nothing. One night he says, "You know what I miss?" he asks. "Bread, not flatbread. Real bread, the kind that's warm in the middle." You nod. "And lying," he adds. "Telling stories where I'm the hero." You nod again. You both sit with that. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking. Because winter here isn't just cold. It's a judge. It takes the softness from your voice, the certainty from your thoughts. It makes you watch your friends unravel and not flinch. It makes you eat with ghosts and dream in silence. And it never says sorry. You notice it first in how they move. No one sits close to you now, not even Lodi. He still nods when you speak, still passes you the blade when it's your turn to cut meat, still shares breath beside you in the cold, just a little farther off than before, like he's waiting to see which way the wind shifts. It starts with something small, a missing pelt, yours. It was there the night before rolled and tucked at the foot of your bedroll. Now it's gone. You look for it, ask once, twice. Nothing, just shrugs, just silence. You know what that means. Someone took it, but the pelt isn't the real theft. It's the test, a tug on your thread to see if you unravel. You don't. You sleep colder, wake stiffer, keep your mouth shut. But you know what they're doing. You've seen this before. Once it starts, it spreads like frostbite, a slow rot of trust. Not loud, not violent, just patient. Then comes the food. You notice your portion's lighter, barely, a missing mouthful. A smaller scoop. Rationing, someone says. For the sick, for the young. You nod, of course, you believe it. Or pretend to. But it happens again the next night, and the one after that. One evening, Lodi doesn't sit with you at all. He joins the others on the far side of the fire, where the warmth is thicker. They laugh. You hear your name once, then not again. You keep sharpening your blade. Each scrape sounds like a clock counting down. It happens after the snowstorm. 3 days of white. No visibility. No sun. Just the world turned blank and merciless. You stay inside, pressed shoulder to shoulder with the others, breathing each other's rot. When it clears, the world feels too bright. The snow outside glows like bone. That's when they bring you out. They don't drag you. They don't shout. They just stand there. 4 of them, maybe 5, and nod. Like it's your turn. You follow. No weapons. No ceremony. Just a circle, formed in the clearing by bootsteps. Loshi's there. At the edge, not speaking. One of the elders, a man called Stig, addresses the space around you. We've had sickness, weakness, accidents, supplies lost. He doesn't say you. He doesn't have to. Someone spits. Your stomach knots, not with fear, but with the clarity that this is not a misunderstanding. It's a conclusion. You want to speak. You don't. They don't vote. There's no justice here, only consensus. A cold logic shaped by empty bellies and too many nights listening to the wind peel at the walls. You're not being punished. You're being cut loose. Leave, Stig says. Tonight. Just that. No death sentence. No blow, but no food. No fire. Survive if you can. You look at Lodi. He looks away. That night, you pack what little isn't nailed down. A dull axe, half a pelt, your knife. You take snow in a pouch, knowing it will melt, knowing it won't be enough. You step into the dark. It's not dramatic, no storm, no wolves. Just cold, and the sound of the cabin door shutting behind you. You walk, not because you know where you're going, but because you've been told you don't belong. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking, because in the end, it's not battle that breaks you. It's not even winter. It's being looked at like you're already dead, and finding out they're right. You don't remember how long you've been walking. It could be hours, could be days. The sun hasn't shown its face in what feels like a lifetime, and the stars are shy behind the cloud-thick sky. You walk because stopping means dying, and dying, while inevitable, still feels like something you should postpone. The woods are silent. Not the good kind. Not the kind where birds trill and wind sighs through branches. This is silence like the inside of a cave. Like the world has forgotten how to breathe. Your own footfalls sound like heresy. Your pelt is soaked at the edges. Your fingers are cracked and bloodless. The dull axe swings heavy on your hip, more weight than weapon. You keep glancing behind you, even though you know no one followed. But part of you still thinks maybe Lodi might. That maybe he'd appear, say your name, throw you a piece of bread like an apology. He doesn't. He won't. On the second night, if it is a night, you find a hollow under a tree. Snow-packed but dry enough. You crouch inside and curl around yourself. You don't sleep, not really, but your body rests. Your mind doesn't. It speaks in voices now. You hear your mother telling you to come in from the rain. You hear Stig calling you weak. You hear yourself lying over and over. I can do this. Sometimes you laugh. It's not a happy sound. You talk to yourself, out loud. Short sentences, commands, just to make sure your voice still works. Sometimes it doesn't. On the third day or fourth, you see smoke. A thin line rising between trees. Your pulse kicks. You almost run. Almost. But that's not the Viking way, is it? You approach slow, careful. Every crunch of snow sounds like thunder. It's a fire. Small, a ring of stones and some wet wood. And beside it someone. Not a Viking. A woman. Older, wrapped in wool, sitting on a log like it belongs to her. Her eyes find you before you speak. They do not widen, do not flinch. You look half dead, she says. You nod. You don't have enough energy to be offended. Sit then, you do. She hands you a chunk of bread. Real bread. Warm. You eat like it's your last act. She doesn't ask your name. She tells you her's Inga. She says little else. She feeds the fire. Offers nothing more than heat and bread and silence. But not the same kind of silence as the woods. Hers is thicker, older. Not empty, just patient. You stay 2 nights, maybe 3. You help chop wood, carry water. You don't speak much, but when you do, it surprises you. The sound, the fact that someone listens, the fact that you're still a person with a voice. One morning, she's gone. No note, no tracks, just the fire still burning. You don't cry. But you sit there for hours. Then you take the bread she left behind, wrap it in the bit of cloth, and walk on. The silence returns, but it's different now, less cruel, less jagged. You hear yourself breathing. You hear the snow drip from the pines. You hear your feet finding rhythm again. And you understand something. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking, because it's not the battle or the cold or the hunger that breaks you. It's the aloneness, the being unneeded, the knowing that the world turns whether you're in it or not, and somehow, you keep walking anyway. It's warmer now, not by much but enough that you notice. The snow clings only in the shadows. The trees weep a little in the morning, shedding the last of winter's silence. You walk slower. Not from weakness, but from listening. The world sounds different, less like punishment, more like waiting. As if something is watching, not to hurt you, but to ask if you've learned anything. You cross a stream and see frogs. Tiny ones, the first living things that haven't tried to flee from you. You crouch, touch the water. It stings icy still, but it moves. And that movement stirs something old in your limbs. You follow it. The village isn't marked. It lies in a hollow, wrapped in mist and cedar. The houses are smaller than Viking halls, rounder, lower, with thatched roofs that gleam with dew. Smoke rises gently, not like warning signals, but like breath. Chickens peck in the mud. Children chase each other with sticks, not wooden swords. Just sticks. You stop at the edge. You look like a ghost. But no one runs. No one screams. An old man approaches. He wears a wool robe, dark blue, stitched at the edges with symbols you don't know. He doesn't carry a weapon, just a ladle. "You're far from the coast," he says, in rough Norse. You nod. "You hungry?" You nod again. He turns. "Then come." And just like that, you do. They don't ask about your past. Not that first day, not the second. You're given a cot in the storehouse, a wooden bowl, a place near the fire. The children stare, wide-eyed but unafraid. You eat beside a man with burned scars and a woman with a limp and no teeth. They speak a dialect you barely follow, but no one seems to care what you understand. You are simply allowed. You chop wood, mend a fence, help carry salt from a collapsed granary. Each task is small. Each one feels heavier than a sword. You don't tell them who you were. You don't have to. Your silence is taken as grief, or maybe reverence. You're not sure which is safer. One night they dance, not like your people. No war stomps, no ale-fueled howls. Just slow, swaying circles under the moonlight. Drums that beat like a second heartbeat. The woman with the limp sings in a voice like wind over snow. The old man claps softly, never missing the rhythm. Someone offers you a hand. You don't take it. Not yet, but you smile. And that's more than you've done in weeks. Later, the old man sits beside you by the fire. He gestures at your scars, the old ones. The ones you've forgotten how to name. "We've seen warriors before," he says. "But most of them keep walking, or try to lead. You stay quiet." You don't do either. Why? You think about it. "Because I'm tired," you say, "of being someone I had to be." He nods, not like he agrees, but like he knows what that costs. You'll need to choose soon, whether to stay, whether to become part of something. We don't keep wolves here, or ghosts. You don't answer, not yet, but you know what he means. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking, because you found a place where people live without burning, where kindness isn't a weapon, where silence is not suspicion. And now you must decide, were you just surviving? Or were you waiting to be someone else? It begins with a question, not a demand, not a trial. Just a quiet moment near the well, when the old man Kjeld, you've learned it, is filling a pail. And he asks you, not unkindly, what should they call you? You hesitate. Too long. Long enough for the silence to seem strange. Long enough to feel the weight of your real name, the one heavy with blood and salt and shouted across burning beaches. You don't say it. Instead, you choose a word from their language. One you've heard the children use for a wild dog they half adopted, half feared. Scarn. It means nothing noble. It means stubborn, unclaimed. Kjeld nods, says it once aloud. Then never again. From then on, that's who you are. Scarn is given work. You carry ash from the fires. You help the crippled man build traps for rabbits. You learn to mend shoes. The village accepts you like it accepts the rain. Sometimes too much, sometimes not enough, but always expected. You begin to speak again. Slowly, carefully, like every word costs a memory. You don't talk about the raids. You don't talk about the boy who froze to death next to you in the cabin. Or the man who walked into the trees and didn't come back. You don't talk about Lodi, but you do talk. About fishing, about weather, about the taste of boiled moss root. And sometimes they laugh. Spring comes, the forest thins, the rivers churn louder. Birds return like they never left. One morning, a woman brings you a bundle of linen and says, "Yours now." Inside, a tunic, homespun. The sleeves are too short, but the threads are new. You wear it. You start to forget how the iron of a sword feels against your hip. You start to stand straighter when children call your name, but memory doesn't rot. It hibernates. One evening, a trader passes through. He wears furs from the north and speaks with your accent. He sees you, stares, says nothing, but in that stare is a mirror. And in it, you see the parts of you that still smell like smoke and blood. You don't flinch. But that night, you walk into the woods and scream, not loud, just enough, like bleeding a wound. Then you return. No one asks why your eyes are red. You wouldn't last a day as a Viking. Not anymore, because to last you had to be cold. Had to choose power over peace. Had to wear fear like armor. And now, after all you've done, after all you've lost, you found a place where that armor rusts. Where your name is not an oath or a threat, but just a sound on a child's lips. You are scarred now. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's the point.